Bulingana, stories from Eastern Province, Zambia. Episode 1, Elephants and Flowers. Africa. Why was it pulling me all those years ago? And Eastern Zambia. Why did I end up coming here? It hasn't even got tourist stuff like further into the southwest of the country, where Livingstone gives you luxury hotels as a gateway to one of the wonders of the planet, the astonishing Victoria Falls. If Europeans or Americans come here to Eastern Province, they're more likely to have been smitten with an urge to volunteer in a so-called third world country. Me, I never made a great tourist anyway, just because I wanted to experience life in the place where I found myself. I'd wanted to feel how people felt living there. What are the ups and downs of life in a place? I wanted to have friends there with whom I could just exchange day-by-day gossip. The little things. To come back to Zambia, there are game parks in the east where tourists can go. And it's in one of those parks, South Luangwa, that's the setting for this first story. Most Zambians living in Eastern Province can't actually afford to go to the game parks, but we see in a later episode we made that happen. Conversely, most tourists visiting the game parks are on sanitized tours, preserving them from seeing how people live here in the villages and compounds. They fly into the small airstrip at Mfue and are whisked to fairly luxurious accommodation and fine dining at one of the many lodges. But now I must beg your patience. Explanations as to what I'm doing in this part of the world will come in one of these podcast episodes very soon. But first, I want to try and paint a picture for you to whet your interest in my adventures here. So I'm going to start with a story. Drive east to Chipata, then north, up towards the hills of the Muchinga Escarpment as it curls northeastwards. Vervet monkeys, intent on thieving from our bags when we arrive at the game lodge reception. Hippos doing their hippo thing in the shallows of the Luangwa River. I spend an hour or so entranced by those hippos, grunting loudly at each other, luxuriating in the cool water and mud, a stone's throw from where I stand on the riverbank. Later in my stay, the guide tells me that most hippo communication is done underwater, inaudible to us. So a whole sub-aqua gossip group all day long. How was the grass last night? Sweet. I hear Hippolyta is in calf again, etc., etc. But right now they are most audible. Occasionally, one of them opens the mouth in a vast 180-degree yawn. 1.5 meters of monitor lizard ambles past on the riverbank, paying me scant attention. I'm already entranced. This place is different. Lydia is waiting on table at my al fresco dinner. Like all the Zambians I've met, she's friendly and open, happy to tell me about her life here. Apparently, a bunch of elephants were in the camp just before we arrived. That leads her into sitting down with us and telling an elephant story. Now, back in England, if we have a garden or allotment, We might get a bit annoyed when our vegetables get eaten by slugs and snails. Lydia's garden gatecrashers were elephants. She tells me how she had a flower-growing field and a roadside flower stall at Mfue where she lives. The elephants visited that field on a nightly basis when her crop was blooming. Seems they loved the fragrant munching on offer. Lydia would wake herself around 1 a.m. and, to the dismay of her family and neighbours, beat a large drum for an hour or so in an attempt to scare them off. Alas, to no avail. When an elephant is set in its course of action, dissuading it from that course is, needless to say, a major undertaking. Add in all its relatives, and only a cataclysm, like the earth opening up, is likely to make them rethink their plan. So that flower business failed, but Lydia now has a good living at the Game Park Lodge here, ironically cashing in on those elephants. The rains here, as in most of this part of Africa, have been late. The camp closes for 2 months soon because usually parts of it will be underwater when the river floods. But this year, as last, the rains are insufficient to make that happen. Weather patterns are abnormal again. A tribal chief of the Chewa tribe, Chief Mbangombe, who was kind enough to befriend me, more about him later, told me that it used to be that the rains could be predicted almost to the day. Fields ready to plant, wildlife tuned in and ready. But these last years, it's been getting more and more random, delayed, insufficient rain to swell the rivers so they can carry life-giving floodwaters down to the mighty Zambezi and its plains. Perhaps another example of a part of the world which, with their simple, profound culture, living much closer to the natural ways of Mother Earth, paying the price for the reckless refusal to tackle climate change by the so-called more civilized countries. I give no apology for any perceived political naivety. But back to the game park. I'm staying in a very fine, large, quite luxurious tent down by the river. I'm woken at 4:30 a.m. Ponderous pounding of large feet, not that far from the tent by the sound of it, heading for the river. The hippos leave the river at night time to graze the grassland, which is their source of nutrition. It's amazing that one of the biggest killers of people among all the animals still living in the wild is a vegetarian. Don't try to stare out a hippo. Don't get between a hippo and the water. And on no account, rush up to one of a hippo's babies saying, "Oh, how cute! I must cuddle this baby hippo like it's a soft toy." Your life will be over. Anyway, knowing all this about my noisy neighbours, I'm not fussed. The game lodge would not risk the lives of its paying guests by exposing them to danger from such an unruly species. Anyway, I know they can only see a tent, not a human in that tent. And anyway, they're on a mission, returning to the river to digest the night's grazing. Apparently, when a bunch of them are in the water, they're collectively called a raft of hippos, because the little ones like to hang out on the backs of their mothers. Actually, there's lots of collective names if you look it up. A pod, a herd, etc., etc. But I think raft is nicely descriptive. And anyway, it's the first term that I heard from my Zambian expert guide. While I'm on that subject, what's a group of zebras called? What on earth kind of camouflage is psychedelic black and white zigzag stripes that make you feel like you ate the wrong kind of mushrooms for breakfast? Malama, how did the stripes of the zebra evolve as a camouflage mechanism?
Actually, there's very little they do to camouflage with those stripes. What they will do as a defensive mechanism is to bunch up together, so as they're breaking the light, they dazzle.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's difficult. Dazzle. D-A-Z-Z-L-E.
Yeah, a dazzle. It's totally confusing visually for any predator also. Hard to perceive whether a group or one big scary animal best left alone. Hence the group name, a dazzle of zebras. Lions may be apex predators, but if they don't understand something, they don't furrow their brows and discuss it amongst each other. They shrug their lion shoulders and move on to something else. We see that soon in this story with the humans in our open Land Cruisers. Dawn Safari. I have few words because what I see is hyper real. It's like stepping into a children's picture book. And you start to realize this is what our planet looks like, smells like, sounds like. Pristine. The dawn sounds of tropical birds. Hippos snorting, snuffling, grunting, loud. As we cross the Luangwa River into the reserve, I see crocs snaking through the water, looking like they're on devious and highly secretive missions. Monkeys casually wandering out of our way. They know that the road belongs to them, not the humans. A group of elephants appear out of the early morning haze. I have never before seen an elephant except at a zoo. This is their world. I'm in paradise, quietly ecstatic at the privilege of just being here, being alive, breathing in the same air as these magnificent fellow travellers on this world of ours. This is what will be destroyed by the uber-rich and the industrialists and their war makers who run the planet to our detriment. But for now, look in wonder. The towering majesty of the giraffe, her liquid eyes languidly gazing back at me from her lofty altitude. The antelopes, I forget how many kinds that the guide tells me about. Pukus, impala, the only ones I remember. The huge flapping ears, big as wings, as the elephants use the veins in the back of them to cool the blood. Whilst of course the hippos have their mud, glorious mud, to cool theirs. And the lions, magnificent savage angels with green gold eyes. The first time I saw them, afternoon safari later that day, we swung round into a dry riverbed near the main river, and there they were, crashed out in the sun, some of them lying on their backs like pussycats, legs akimbo, sunning and snoozing. Some of them open lazy eyes to look at us. Some even get up, wander around a bit, then lie down, closing their eyes. Why don't they attack? Our Zambian safari guide tells me that they appear to so completely not understand a vehicle with some humans in it that it's as if they don't see us. Well, they do, because they look at us, but they don't get it, so they ignore us. But stand up in the vehicle, hang an arm or a leg out the side, and you become prey. That's important information later, as the lions get moving and are walking within a few feet of us. An occasional glance at us. Not disdain, they don't do human emotion. More just the bold statement of a Class A predator. We're the lions, don't mess with us. We start getting ready to go back later that evening, as it's been getting dusk and the tropical night comes quickly. We've been stretching our legs near the riverbank, all the while keeping a wary eye at the nearby trees. Anything behind them watching us hungrily. We fall silent, entranced for a moment by the light of the Luangwa River, the reds and oranges of the setting sun colouring the clouds, contrasting with their pockets of soft grey. For a brief moment of timeless time, a balm to the soul. The crocodiles slide into the shallows with barely a splash. They've given up hoping that one of these strange two-legged creatures is going to wander over and pat them on the snout. They've been observing us through hopeful, slitted eyes. We pay a last visit to the lions. They're getting up. Let's eat. Astonishingly, we get included into a hunting circle. For an hour, maybe, now in darkness, interspersed with quick looks using the red light torch, we edge forward towards a herd of impala. The light briefly picks out hundreds of gleaming eyes, all looking in our direction. A lioness, just 2 or 3 feet from me, glances briefly, hunkered down on haunches. I think how she could launch herself from that position in an instant and be on us, an easy meal. Hard to describe the building excitement, the tension. A wildlife documentary, and I'm in it, right in the middle of it. It's too utterly real to be a dream, but this is a level of real that I don't usually inhabit. Every moment, every aspect of the scene, cut out of the darkness in stark outline. A flurry of activity off to the right. A lion on point has cut out a lone impala, chased it into the waiting circle. No escape. It swerves from one lion straight into the jaws of another. Within seconds, there's a seething mass of lions, more coming to join the melee all the time. We drive to within 20 or so meters, headlights full on to the spectacle. The lions couldn't care less about the headlights. It's mealtime, and oh my, they are messy eaters. The impala is soon torn to pieces. I won't regale you with gory details. Suffice to say, this is nature in the raw. A last look at the impala's dying eyes as it manages to rear its head out of the throng shows something like resignation, though maybe I'm just anthropomorphizing here, imagining a human emotion in the creature. For sure, this movie gets played out every night here, maybe a dozen times, by the lions, the wild dogs, the crocodiles, the leopards, all the predators down the chain. I'm congratulated by the others on my return. Why? They tell me some of them have been on safari many, many times before and never seen lions kill. I breeze in my first evening safari. I get the action. We humans are tolerated by the other species here in paradise. We should be duly humbled. Where is it at? Hunters coming in with their high-powered rifles and being so far away from what is reasonable, what is right, what is giving due reverence to the divinity that is life itself, to nature, that they hunt and poach their way through the habitat of these precious creatures. Not only here, in the last small bits of the planet that we've left for these beautiful animals, but everywhere actually. We surely have to learn to tread lightly if we're going to prove that we deserve a place on the same planet.